started. So thanks so much for coming out. Like, we are kind of overwhelmed with the response. This is really amazing. My name's Cole, and this is Natalie. So what we're going to do today is we've got 2 hours starting from 2 till 4. We might just say names, and then we'll have a go around the same names. We want to just say a few things before we fully get into what we're going to be doing today. Okay.
So we're just going to give a little bit of an intro, and I guess this intro is into how we came to be here today, and what it is that individuals that, so I guess just to start, 5 of us kind of, in just kind of our informal community, so like friends of friends, really started having a conversation shortly after the research was done recently by the SPRC, and just looking back traditionally on kind of research in general, and just over really having beers talking about that there was such large gaps in areas of the report that has recently come out, and just in general that are traditionally left out of research. And we thought, well, that really sucks, because how are we supposed to, because we know that funding oftentimes to build like a center is based on these reports, and if people's voices are missing from these reports, how are we going to get funding, or how whoever decides to sit down at a table and take that on is going to get funding, right? And to build something, and to just have a sense of what each other needs and feels that they're not getting, right? Because we know that probably a lot of us in this room have different ideas of what we need, that because of systemic issues aren't being met whatsoever, because of internal prejudice, because of all that stuff, right? That we don't really know, because we don't walk in each other's shoes. And so basically we thought about whose voices often get missed, and in part we want to acknowledge that that was due to limited resources and funding that they have at the SPRC. But that how we can get together and or have kind of those gaps addressed, those voices heard. And so our thought was, okay, well, so can the 5 of us that kind of sat down and decided to write a letter, put up their hands? Okay. So then we kind of decided, okay, well, let's write a letter and use our informal networks of people that we know to hopefully lend support and sign this letter, or if not, know that there's going to be like a meeting point to come together to discuss what to do next. So we're not a group, we're not like heading up something that comes out of this, we're just kind of leading this, or like facilitating this meeting today. That we're not like a formal organization. Do you have anything to add to that?
Oh yeah, I just want to clarify is the aim of today though, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. You're going to get it.
Yes.
So it's our hope that we are going to it's our hope that we're going to come out of this with an idea of how to go about doing research on those voices that were missed, that are not heard, and that in the end of that hopefully that there's research that we can augment, and we can fill in those gaps that aren't in the SPRC report or that are traditionally left out of research. Rocco?
Can you just verify where you saw the gaps?
Where we saw the gaps? Well, we're hoping actually that today we're going to discuss that at the beginning.
Yes.
Oh, I'm not sure. Can I say this or not?
Sure.
So the people who are facilitating today we're hoping that out of this comes a group of people potentially within this room or potentially outside it, or interested in forming a steering group to guide future research. But the people who are facilitating, we don't want it to necessarily be us. So we agreed that the people facilitating won't necessarily be on that steering committee. So I just wanted to clarify that. We're not the group. We're hoping to kind of
Is your intent to augment that report?
To augment
that report?
Yes.
I think that in and of itself is deeply problematic and responsible.
Okay, so that is definitely something that we want to hear about, and so I just want to clarify the process. Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say, I don't agree particularly with that language either. I think that this research actually needs to be the driving force for work happening in the future, and I don't necessarily agree with it being augmenting. I think if anything, the limited scope of the SPRC report would be something that might have a piece within the research that we're looking to undertake today, or to start the process around today.
Right. Okay. So I think I think these are two really valid points that are raised, and that we're going to, in the latter half of this group, discuss proposing how do we go about doing this research, so that not be the reference. I think would be great. Raise that for sure. Lila?
I just wanted to hear you finish your thought about why they found that problematic.
Okay,
can we do that in the second? Is that okay?
We're still in the introduction part. We want to get into the meat of everything. We're going to have group discussions, but we really just want to sort of give an overview of why we decided to do this and how we kind of see the process unfolding today. So, is there anything else you guys want to agree to?
Another quick question.
Yes.
Is the report available for some people who may not see?
Yes, it's available on the SPRC website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we actually did send it out when we originally sent out that letter, so that people could review it. We don't have copies of it with us today, but it's available on the SPRC website. It's called Speak Out, and it's a preliminary report. It's not the full report.
So do we want to go into? Does everyone get a sense of kind of how we came to be?
I was invited here, but I just had no idea what, in your introduction, this report, was the acronym, I don't, have any idea what you're talking about.
Okay, so
That's okay.
So there's a research organization in town called the Social Planning and Research Council, and their job is to do work around planning, but also doing research with communities that, to figure out how to, give them, stuff that they need. And so the Social Planning and Research Council did a needs assessment actually quite a few years ago, and they've just done another one this year of LGBTQ plus communities in Hamilton, and they have issued a preliminary report. But they had 5 different identities that they identified, which were trans communities, youth, families,
seniors,
the general queer community, and seniors. So out of that, there wasn't really a big writing or research found from there about recognizing the intersecting aspects of identity. So I'm following up my words here, but recognizing that not all gay men have the same needs, not all lesbians have the same needs, not all trans people have the same needs, or are the same, and that there's much diversity within all of our communities. And traditionally, not to focus specifically on SPRC right now, but traditionally in research, community-based research, often, unless you are specifically doing research with particular marginalized communities, sometimes voices within those communities can get missed because they're not able to be reached by the researchers for whatever reason. And it happens all over the place with research. So we just want to be able to tap into some of those communities who were missed or whose voices were not heard from, and create a research process that will be inviting of people who might not necessarily feel comfortable coming to a meeting like this or meeting face-to-face with someone. We want to come up with different modalities, different ways of doing research with different people or different communities so that they feel, okay, I can safely share with you what I think the gaps are in Hamilton and what I think the needs are in Hamilton, and without outing myself or feeling marginalized or feeling like my voice is not as loud as other people's who have more privilege than I do, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so let's
just move on because we want to get started. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to talk about this. Yeah. Okay, so I want to get this handout. I'm just going to a little document I found called Tips for an Inclusive Consultation. And this is what this is. This isn't exactly the consultation, but we just want to make sure that everyone has a voice and that no people are feeling intimidated, or some people aren't, that we are all inclusive and that we're recognizing that when people are speaking up, that doesn't mean that those people aren't in the room, it just means that they might not be speaking up. So we're not going to go through the whole thing and do an exercise with this, but I want you to just look at it and bear it in mind, bear the issues in mind that we might want to think about. So, there are some identities and groups that have privilege and some that do not. And we want to think about our social location. So our social location is where what our multiple experiences and identities in our life are. So, for example, race, class, gender, ability, other like religion, sexual orientation is a social location. And so, when you start thinking about people as having, when I said not all lesbians are the same, it's because, some lesbians are racialized, some lesbians are living with disability, some lesbians are, white, some lesbians are rich, some lesbians are living in poverty. So we want to think about those when we're just thinking about whose voices got missed and who are we going to be including when we're doing this talk, or when we're doing this research. So think about which groups and identities do you belong in. You can look at this power wheel probably later on by yourself, but just bear it in mind and look at the wheel and how many identities of yours are closer to the center and how many are more on the other side. Do you have certain privileges that other people in this room don't enjoy as a result of your privilege, right? How can you help, if you do recognize yourself as being a person who has more privilege than oppression in your life, how can you use that privilege to help and invite other people in who don't have as much privilege as you? That's called, we hear the word allies in queer communities organizing, allies, gay straight alliances, etc. So we also, as queer people, need to be allies with with people who are marginalized within our communities as well. Also, when we're doing research, when we're doing these discussions, are you noticing that some voices are louder than others, or some voices speak up sooner than others, or more often than others? And if you notice that that's within yourself, that if you notice that you're jumping in quite a bit to speak, that's great. We definitely want people to be, having these conversations, but we also want people to take responsibility and be a little bit aware of maybe when I jump in all the time, the more thoughtful people who will take a little bit longer to process their thoughts and want to say something or are feeling more shy, maybe they just need a little bit more time to be able to jump in. So maybe sort of holding it back a little bit. If you also notice that, some people might, want to say something but they're feeling not able to or intimidated, then how can you, as someone who is comfortable doing that, foster some, do some leadership with that person and foster them being included in the circle? And there's different ways you can do that. And how can you support people who have less privilege than you do in this space? Okay? So, of course, if people don't speak up, that's absolutely fine. We don't want to force anyone into doing that. But just if you maybe try and push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit, that's okay. We're going to split up into smaller groups later to give people an opportunity to have smaller, more intimate conversations. And that's basically also, if you belong to a group that is, a particular group, let's say you're a trans person, a refugee, a newcomer, what have you, then, so if you are speaking, just ask yourself whether I actually am a member of this group and can I actually legitimately speak on behalf of members of that group, or can I speak in solidarity with members of that group, but not as a person who's on the inside. And also, don't assume that just because a group isn't speaking up, that there aren't members of that group in this room and that they aren't capable of speaking for themselves. People are, so don't try and rush in and speak on other people's behalf. I think that's basically it. The other thing is we want to just talk about group norms a little bit, just so that we're all sort of, not sort of yelling at each other or talking over each other. Basically we want to ask from you, what do you want to have as, the ways that we are going to be communicating with each other in the space? Like what kinds of...
What do you need to be able to see?
Yeah. Like a little sort of, some people call them ground rules, but we like to call them group norms, just the way that we all agree that we're going to be in this space. One example that people always come up with is respect. Be respectful, right? Are there other examples? Can you write them down?
One thing, if people could really speak up, because on the other side it's hard to hear, So, I want to hear what everybody has to say.
All right, so speak up. Yeah. Anything else?
We're not
Yeah.
kids. They kind of like
Have an anti-oppression ethic in mind when you're talking, so that means don't be sexist, racist, homophobic when we're trying to express ourselves in this space and make sure we're making it safe.
Well, kicks them out.
Did people hear what I said?
Okay. The language we're using is anti-oppressive language or is not oppressive language. Thank you, Lena. Others, yeah.
Don't invalidate anyone's experience just because it isn't something you've gone through yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot that I think really to speak about on behalf of the groups of community that represent that has been more than 3 years that there needs to be said.
Okay, so
let's get to it.
That it will get ignored or it will be shut down.
that people will be shouted down
Yeah.
in this game.
Possibly, just if things go against what everyone wants to feel is true.
Okay, yeah.
So what am I hearing from you is that you really want understanding and to be heard and received and not shut down.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Yeah, that goes along with respect, I think, for sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
I guess not for people to be respectful when other people critique canon. So I find that oftentimes someone will critique something that's considered canon within the community, with different communities that I've seen, and then a few years later, the canon is rewritten to incorporate the critiques that the person just got shouted down a few years earlier. So when someone says something that is not like still like respecting people and still being empire presence, but is not considered to be like the thing that people believe right now, to just like not to get about it and to just be a bit more open.
So, do you mean, because I think that like not everyone will understand concepts of canon and things like that, but do you mean like basically don't dredge up the past and make that, bring that into this space right now?
No. That's what this is all about.
Substitute criticism,
Okay.
Not even on the topic yet.
someone says something that is not considered to be like core ideology that most share now, to instead of getting defensive, to just take a step back and think about it, not necessarily integrate that criticism, but also at the same time not be afraid of critique.
Right. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Others? Yes? Yeah, empathy. Right.
No.
Thank you.
What was that, sorry?
Empathy. Being empathetic people. Any
I'm
others?
pissed. I'm not gonna agree with it.
Unfortunately, we couldn't do. One of them was get ASL interpretation. We couldn't do that. There was nobody available. We were going to, a couple of the people were going to be out of pocket, and we unfortunately couldn't have that. So we recognize this meeting isn't accessible to people that need ASL interpretation. There was one other thing I was thinking about that we thought about. Well, we recognize that obviously at this meeting there are people that aren't here because of, not being able or not feeling like they can or not wanting to come to this meeting, and we still want to hopefully, we just want to recognize that there is lots of people that aren't here today.
Yeah, so
We
basically,
want to understand that.
yeah,
We're the
so there are
shepherds.
people who are here, you know, for various reasons. Maybe some people didn't hear about it, maybe they're, you know, they're off doing something else. That's fine. So we want to be remembering those people as well and being mindful of those people because this is just the first meeting, right? So we're very we're interested in this being completely democratic, you know, where everyone makes decisions together, or you know, and we're going to tell you after we've done the two discussions, the two questions that we're going to be asking of ourselves. Then we're going to figure out some kind of structure that we can do with moving forward with actually undertaking the research.